You probably heard the term adult child before, right? It's often used to describe someone who just had to grow up way too fast. Well, today, we're really going to dive deep into the psychology behind that experience, a phenomenon that's known as parentification.
And to start, just listen to this powerful quote from journalist Gina DeMillo Wagner. She's describing what it was like to be what psychologists call a parentified child. Her story really puts a human face on this whole thing and grounds us in the very real stakes of this kind of role reversal.
And that really gets to the heart of it, right? What are the lasting effects when those fundamental roles of parent and child get completely flipped upside down? As we're about to find out, the answers are a lot more complex, and honestly, way more surprising than you might think.
So to really get a handle on this, let's first take a look at what a childhood reversed actually looks like in day-to-day life.
For Gina, this meant taking on responsibilities that went so far beyond typical chores. I mean, as a child, she was her mother's counselor, the family cook, and the main caregiver for her younger siblings. She even had to hand over her own earnings just to help pay for groceries. This wasn't just being a helpful kid, it was a total inversion of the entire family structure.
Okay, so we've seen the personal side of this. Now let's switch gears a bit and look at the clinical definition, how psychology actually breaks this experience down. And it turns out there are two really distinct types.
So, officially, parentification is when a child is forced into a caregiving role that's just way beyond their years. This usually happens when a parent can't fulfill their own duties, maybe because of illness or addiction or mental health issues. And so the child steps in to fill that void.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. On one side, you have emotional parentification. This is all the invisible labor. Managing a parent's feelings, being their confidant. It's incredibly heavy psychologically. On the other side, you have instrumental parentification. These are the tangible physical tasks you can see. And while both are a huge burden, research suggests that the emotional type, that's the one that often leaves deeper, less visible scars.
And those scars are very well documented. Parentified children often grow into adults with a much higher risk for anxiety and depression. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because their own needs were always put last, they can really struggle with self-worth and find it incredibly difficult to form healthy, balanced relationships later in life. It really comes at a high psychological cost.
But, and this is a huge but, that is not the whole story. Not even close. This is where it gets absolutely fascinating, because amidst all of this difficulty, researchers have found a pretty stunning paradox. Which brings us to a really critical question. Is it possible that this profoundly difficult experience could also somehow forge strength? Let's see what the data has to say.
So, a recent dissertation dug into this very question. Researchers did a study with 106 young adults, all with histories of childhood parentification. They measured their past experiences, and then they measured their current levels of psychological resilience. And this slide right here shows exactly what they found. Now, this table is the statistical analysis, and all it's really doing is looking for a connection between parentification and resilience. The important thing to see is that the connection they found is positive. And this tiny number here, the significance level, that tells us the connection is real. It's not just some random fluke.
So what does all of that mean? Incredibly, it means the study found a significant positive connection. The more parentification someone experienced, the higher their level of resilience was in adulthood. I mean, wow, that just completely challenges the purely negative view of this experience.
So how is that even possible? Well, the researchers suggest that parentification can act as a developmental accelerant. The idea is that by having to navigate these incredibly complex challenges at such a young age, these individuals might develop advanced problem-solving skills, a deep sense of empathy, and a profound sense of competence that actually contributes to their resilience later in life.
Acknowledging this resilience is such a key part of healing. It's not about ignoring the pain, but about integrating the strength that was forged because of it. So let's move to our final section and see how someone can begin to reclaim their story. Drawing from her own journey, Gina DeMillo Wagner outlines 6 really concrete steps, and it starts with grieving the childhood you didn't get to have. From there, it's about learning new skills, setting boundaries, actually asking for help, and listening to your own needs, things that were just impossible as a child. It's a roadmap for building the healthy, reciprocal relationships you always deserved. And that leaves us with this final thought. Parentification is a story of both trauma and, somehow, unexpected strength.
The real challenge, for both the individuals and for those who support them, is to find a way to honor the incredible resilience that was built without ever forgetting the profound sacrifice of a childhood that was lost.